So welcome, David.
Thank you, Anne, and good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. Have a look at this opening slide. Look at the picture of a sculpture. It was created some years ago by a young woman with a physical disability, and what a powerful testimony to the experience of having no sensation in your legs. This was a young person, clearly with spina bifida. A couple of things I want you to be thinking about during the course of this presentation. Firstly, remember experiences you've had when you've been unwell as a consumer of healthcare, particularly if you can recall what was happening in your childhood or adolescence, or if you have a child or children who've experienced healthcare, particularly in hospital. That would be a really important thing to be thinking about. And also keep an eye out for things which you might consider to be artistic or creative, because there's actually a message in the importance of creative expression as well. I wanted to move my slides along. I do work at the Children's Hospital at Westmead. I've been there for a very long time. In fact, recently I received my 35-year award. It was a bandaged bear waving goodbye, it looked like to me, but I realised that I have actually been involved in a hospital environment for a very long time and was involved in setting up Australia's first adolescent medical unit in the late 1970s. A hospital for children is a special place because it considers children to be children. It's concerned with their developmental needs and their special requirements when they're ill or injured and generally afraid of what's happening in their lives. This particular hospital is now part of what we're calling the Sydney Children's Hospital Network, and this is a major organisation now with about 500 beds, tremendous political clout and strategic ability in this space of the healthcare for children and young people. It mentioned in the opening slide that I've been involved with the Centre for the Advancement of Adolescent Health. This organisation also has a lot to be proud of and has now become part of the new authority established as a result of the Garling report into acute healthcare services in New South Wales. This is now the Youth Health and Wellbeing team. So we actually now have the influence and opportunity and responsibility to champion the health needs and the health care and well-being of young people. So about today's talk, I actually include this quite old slide of me. Look at what a cool dude I was back in the middle 1970s. I was heading off to train in a very new specialty at the time. I think people were wanting to call it a pediatrics, but we've ended up calling it adolescent health, adolescent medicine at the pointy end of the secondary and tertiary care. But I can recall hearing my mother boasting to a friend about his son, the doctor, going overseas to study pediatrics, and a friend said, well, he's bright, he'll probably find a cure for it. Well, that wasn't the case, but I did come back very passionate about the issue of creating good healthcare environments for adolescents, and of course that applies to the entire years of childhood. They say that the best sort of presentation has three main messages. So there's some background that I'll present in regard to growing up, but the main issues to address today for me are growing up with illness and disability. What is that experience like, and what are the special features and needs when children are in that circumstance? Secondly, I want to look at how we create nurturing, friendly, accessible and supportive environments for children and young people in the healthcare space, and particularly in hospitals. And finally, it's not reflected in this slide, but the third point, of course, is to look at why we need to be advocates and how we do that. And it gives me an opportunity in that third main message to applaud the achievements of Orch over a period of 4 decades. So let's continue. Anne mentioned very kindly that I'm a parent. I have 4 grown-up children. we child-proofed our house, but they're still getting in. We've had one of our children come back with her own child, who's now a beautiful 4-year-old girl called Twyla. I offered to do something for Twyla, and she very rarely says, no, I prefer that Nana does it. And she was told that that was not a nice way to speak to her grandfather, and that she needed to speak more kindly. So the next time I offered to do something for her, she said, thank you for your kind offer, Grandpa, but I really would rather that Grandma does it. Children are extraordinary. I like this quote by Louis Pasteur. When I see a child, I feel two emotions, tenderness for what she is now and awe for what she might become. And we can all relate to that. Why are children so important? Firstly, and obviously, children are vital for the future strength and success of society. They are not just small adults, which was thought at the beginning of the previous century, but they have differing needs as they grow and develop. Now, critically, we live in a society where the current crop or generation of children is the smallest in the history of humankind. The largest cohort of people ever with the baby boomer generation, and they are now the arbiters of the grey power movement. And a lot of resources and attention go to the adults and elderly people. So children are competing, and they're likely to be overlooked. So I think what motivates me to speak and advocate is that we need to be advocates. Whatever we do, whether we're parents, whether we're working in business environments, or whether we're in healthcare directly or education, we need to see ourselves as advocates and to gain some skills and confidence in that space. By the way, this is one of my grandchildren. This is Sammy, clearly a child prodigy. You know why children get on so well with their grandparents? They have a common enemy. Don't let my children hear me say that, of course. Now, what happens probably sooner than everybody's expecting and is prepared for, children morph into adolescence. They become teenagers really after a very short decade or less. As you know, some children are menstruating by 8 or 9 years of age. Certainly breast budding is happening at that time. So we need to value young people in the present, not just as adults in waiting. And this is another important message in respecting, understanding and responding to the needs of the adolescent years. And they, after all, are quite special. And that, of course, is my special interest as a clinician. This slide, I don't know if you can read the text. It says, no, Jimmy, the tooth fairy won't be visiting you anymore on the pimple fairy. Very funny. Puts me in mind of a child going to visit a grandparent in a nursing home, and her mother finds her standing beside a glass of water in which there is a full set of dentures. And she Anne's laughing beside me here. The mother overhears the child shaking her head and saying, oh my God, the tooth fairy is not going to believe this. Anyway, adolescence is important because it's been described as the crucible for the shaping of health in adulthood and later life. Incredibly formative years, opportunities for things to go very wrong or to get things right. Adolescence has been described as a time of second chances. In fact, a lot of research shows that preventive interventions are most effective during that transition from primary to high school, so that emerging adolescent period is extremely important. But of course, at that time too, children are vulnerable. So in understanding this period, and we're not going to speak at length about this because it's a subject of itself, but just look at these two gormless young men walking along, talking to each other, one saying, I've got to be me, but I can't help thinking that someone else would be more qualified. It's not an easy time. It's like the rug is pulled out from under you. Children can be really confident, and that's a good thing. That's a sign of evolving resilience. Teenagers can be very shy and timid and easily embarrassed. And this disjunction between yearning to understand things, the altruism of young people, not always expressed because it's not always cool to appear to be a kind person. So Chaim Ginnett's very nice quote I've carried with me for a long time. Adolescence is a time of cosmic yearning and private passion, of social concern and private agony. Someone once described adolescence as a brief period of optimism, separating a period of ignorance from a more enduring period of terminal cynicism. But we need to get something clear right now. It is not okay for adults to be cynical or pessimistic about young people. We actually need to be hopeful and optimistic, to model that and to demonstrate it at every opportunity. I've recently been reading a book which is called Too Soon Old, Too Late Smart. It's by Gordon Livingston, a doctor with a lot of very wise things to say. And he says, it is the primary task of parents throughout their lives to convey to the young a sense of optimism. Like all the values we wish to teach our children, honesty, commitment, empathy, respect, hard work, the supreme importance of hope is taught by example. So we have to walk the walk. We have to put on a hopeful demeanour for our children, and that will be helpful to them.